Uh, Hello, Jonathan, and thank you for being on this seminar, which is for the Italian lawyers in cassation, and especially regarding the movie industry and on intellectual property. The reason why I'm asking you for your availability is because,
Sure.
from your experience and knowledge, if you could give the audience not too much a sort of academic point of view on how movies are done, but especially how is the finance once the artistic and the talent packaging is done, how is the finance achieved? I mean, Dino De Laurentiis used to say you need three things to do a movie, a good movie, which is the script, the script, and the script. Well, we would love to add that obviously we
Yes,
need seed financing, good structure of financing, and obviously distribution. So would you
absolutely.
kindly give us an advice from your very important standpoint?
Sure.
What are the following parts?
Sure. Well, look, I mean, the way it works in investing in motion pictures. First of all, let's be very clear. Motion pictures or any artistic endeavor are going to be in the generally high risk category of investment. I mean, it is there's a fair amount of risk involved in any investment, but certainly in entertainment. But you can mitigate that risk, and I think. Make it better and much more palatable to the investor by a number of steps that we tend to take, those of us who have experience in the process. I mean, for example, if I'm making a movie at a budget of say $5 million, I'm going to be looking for on the one hand, I'm going to be looking for whatever free money I can get, which would be benefits that come from either countries or individual states, if I'm in the U.S., or from Canada. You know, there are substantial benefits to be had for making films in locations that supply these benefits, and they're pretty broad based, so that you can find a location that will suit your movie, that most likely that will be able to give you some benefits. So obviously, I'll just give you an example of that. The state of Georgia, which is a very popular state in the U.S., gives about a 30 to 35% benefit back to the uh, filmmaker based on the total budget of the film. That's a substantial amount of money that does not have to be recouped. So if I have a $5 million budget, I'm going to get maybe $1.5 million, $2 million or more from the state at the end of my shooting period. I mean, I have to show them my budget and show them how I spent the money, and they will actually write me a check for that benefit. So that would be one example. Italy does the same thing. If I'm working in Italy, there's a substantial benefit in the country there. The other issues that I'm thinking about are labor costs. So certain areas have higher labor costs than others, and if I can save on the labor costs without but still use the very best laborers, the ones who are the most competent at the work, I'm going to save some money on that end. But because anytime you're paying for labor costs, you're also paying for um, the benefits for health, welfare, all the other things that go along with labor costs. In addition to the benefit that you would be looking for as a producer, I'm also looking for potential sales, and the way I'm going to get sales is to have some guarantee of distribution. Now, my guarantee of distribution could be, if it's in the U.S., it's a domestic guarantee, which would mean that once the film is completed and I submit it to the distributor is going to guarantee me a certain amount of money or a certain number of screens on which the film will be shown, so that it'll have the best opportunity to make as much possible money as it can. If I'm looking for foreign investment, very often I'm looking for pre-sales. So if I have a great script and a great cast, I can go to individual territories and pre-sell the film to those territories. And I have the whole world of territories to work with. I can go to these territories, and usually I'm going to get a flat amount, which is an advance against the distribution in the territory. What that means is that I will get the money up front, and if in fact and I will never have to give it back, but if the movie does better in the territory than just the amount that was given to me as a pre-sale, I will get additional money after the movie is released in those territories. So, but I need, if, for example, I'm making an independent film and I can get some pre-sale money and I can get some money from a benefit, I can lower the risk on the total budget to under 50%, maybe even sometimes 20% or even less. So so that the actual amount, I mean, there are other aspects of things I can do. I can take bank loans for what we call a gap loan, and a gap loan is something that a bank will give me, say, 15% of my budget, for example, and I have to pay the bank back and pay the bank its interest, but the bank doesn't own any rights to the film, so it doesn't take any percentage of the box office take beyond its interest. So that's one way to go. There are also mezzanine loans that can be taken, other things like that that can lower the amount that has to be invested. That is pure equity. But the whole point of this, I think, is to basically make the equity portion of the budget as low as possible to benefit the equity providers, and make sure that they are in first position when the movie is released to get their money back. And as I said, unless there's a bank, of course, if a bank is loaning you money, you've got to pay the bank its interest and its money before you'd pay your investors. But if you're not using a bank or not using a mezzanine loan, uh, all of the other benefits, for example, the pre-sales and the benefits that come from territories, are free money that you don't have to repay. So it makes the process much better for the investor. Now, I would say this, and maybe I'm speaking uh, personally about this, but I think producers that have experience in doing this, producers like myself who've been doing this for years, are probably better bets than people who are coming up who've never done it before, because it's a process, and you need to understand it, and you need to, I mean, I, as a producer, put myself in the shoes of the investor. I'm looking to make sure my investor is going to be happy, because I want to use that investor again. So if the investor is making money on my project, I'm going to be able to go back to that investor for another project and another project in the future. A lot of young, impetuous filmmakers who don't understand the process as well are just looking to grab money fast and make a movie, and they don't care as much about protecting the investment. As a producer, the most important thing for me is to protect the investor, because it enhances my reputation as a relevant producer who will constantly be thinking about the people who are actually investing in me. So, I mean, that's the process pretty much in terms of independent producing.
That, that's
Um,
that's very interesting, Jonathan.
mhm.
Jonathan, let me interrupt you by saying
Sure.
that you've won 4 Oscars,
Yep.
and been nominated 21 times, I believe.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
what are the elements, do you think, between creative and financial, that gives a reasonable expectation of success, not only as winning an award, but also in terms of return of investment?
Well, I think, again, I think when I'm looking to put together a movie, first of all, the script is the most important thing. I mean, the story is everything. So that if I have a great story, I can attract great actors, a great director, and all of the other people who will be helping to make the movie. Um, uh, Finding a great director is important but you want to make sure that the great director that you're looking for is also a responsible director, and some are and some aren't. So you have to do your research to find out whether or not uh, these are people who feel the same way we do and I do about protecting investment. I mean, you don't want someone going off and I have, as a producer, my job is to put the brakes on anything that looks like it's going to go and become basically a runaway production where it is not something I do, and I would be very careful about choosing directors who are both creatively sensitive but also economically smart and know not to I mean, understand that this isn't a making a movie isn't a blank check to spend tons of money. It's basically you've got to do it within certain parameters that are generally set by the producer, and that's part of the job of being a good producer. But finding a great director enhances your ability to get great cast members, because the wonderful actors always want to work with the top directors that are out there. So I mean, it's a process. You start to put together people. Now, of course, having done this for years, I tend to have relationships with directors and with actors. So sometimes I can get an actor in advance of the director who means something because they love the project. And in fact, I might even have the actor help me to find the right director for the project. So it isn't always the case where I'm going to pick the director first, but usually I will. Usually I'm going to want to have a director on board and make sure that the vision of making the story as good as it was on the page, even better than it was on the page, is going to be something that the director does in conjunction with the producer. And I want to make sure that the director and I, for example, have the same idea going forward. And then we can, then we go after our actors and we make a pitch to the actors because we want them. The actors' names, many cases, when you're dealing with well-known actors, it's going to increase the visibility for the investor. The investor is going to feel more comfortable knowing that they're actors who are really meaningful in the marketplace. So these are all things that I think we add in when we plan a project.
Jonathan, thank you. We could go on talking for
Sure.
hours, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure
I'm
to
sorry.
work with you and known you for quite a while, and this is always a revealing and something new to learn every time. Jonathan, just for the audience,
Yeah.
please share with us some anecdotes on one of those great movies you've done that maybe reveals some I wouldn't say secret or gossip, but something that we could learn from.
Well, there are a million anecdotes. I could go on forever, but I mean, I go back often to the first major movie I made, which was The Elephant Man, and I was a young filmmaker at the time, and I was working with I brought in a director who nobody knew, who was David Lynch, and and I had a lot of pushback against him, but I believed that he could do the project in the best way. We had. There were a lot of issues, a lot of problems that we had, and what I've learned actually, and I'm not going to give you a simple anecdote, but I mean what I learned over the years from that experience and others after it is that every problem that you see in making a movie is something you're going to see again and again and again over the years, and if you've had experience, instead of just looking at it as something, well,
Recognize the
uh,
pattern.
I mean, you can see a pattern and you can know ways to solve problems that because you've seen it before. You know what is in store for you. I mean, I can tell you, there there are many humorous stories, but we'd be on this call for hours if I was to go into it. So
Well, at
anybody
least
who's interested in hearing stories about Elephant Man, for example, I wrote a book about it. I wrote a book about all of the different pitfalls and processes that went into my making that movie. And it was a great example, I think, for young filmmakers to see all of the different uh, things that happen in the course of making a movie that you have to deal with. Not just normal deadlines, but we had makeup issues. We had all kinds of things that we had an actor who had to leave at a certain particular date, a stop date on an actor, all kinds of things that caused us to make a lot of changes as we were moving along. So you have to be very nimble and fast on your feet. I think that's a good attribute for most producers.
That's a great advice, and I'll
Yeah,
treasure that because I'm always trying to give advice to the young producers who sometimes freak out when they see the
yeah.
first time problem. Jonathan, thank
Hmm.
you very much. I hope to
My
see
pleasure.
you soon, especially in Italy, producing some
Great.
of your next great movies, and we look forward to having you here in Italy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. All right. Talk to you
Okay.
soon. Thank you. Bye bye.